Today I'm joined by author Anne Freeman, a writer who explores stories about women who feel stuck in life and the extraordinary ways they find the courage to shake themselves loose. Anne's journey into fiction is one of persistence, creativity, and finding your own voice. From being a lifelong reader to writing her first novel on her phone while caring for 2 young children, Anne has built a writing career around making space for creativity, even when life is busy. In this episode, we chat about finding your writing voice, overcoming perfectionist block, setting achievable writing goals, and the realities of building a career as an author. From social media and newsletters to events, mentoring and marketing. We also dive into Anne's latest novel, The Time After Now, a dual timeline story combining a past love story with a present day threat, or drawing on Anne's own lived experience with type 1 diabetes. Anne's story is a wonderful reminder that you don't need perfect circumstances to start writing. You just need to make a little space for the story you want to tell. So let's jump in and meet Anne Freeman. Welcome, Anne Freeman. How are you?
I'm so good, Lisa. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for joining. I'm very excited to chat to you today and hear your journey. And then we'll also discuss your latest book that's about to be released in August, which I've read and I absolutely loved. So I'm very excited for the world to read it and have it in their hands. And before we step into your journey, as always, I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are.
Yes, so I write fiction about women who are stuck in life and the extraordinary ways they shake themselves loose. My stories are always engaging and sometimes funny, with thrilling adventures, sexy escapades, and friendships that uplift. My novels and short stories have been recognised in many contests, both in Australia and internationally. And I live in Melbourne on Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country with my husband and 2 children who still think I'm cool.
I love that ending. If you're calling your kids eyes, still you're winning, right?
Yeah, I'm on borrowed time. Like, I know my days are numbered, and I'm just going to take this opportunity to revel, to bask in the fact that they still think I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty funny.
Yeah, and you are, right? I mean, you're an author, right? That's a pretty cool job to have at the end of the day. So, yeah, you should feel very proud that you have that title still.
I do. I'm reveling in it because I know it's one day it's going to be snatched away from me.
I feel like it's like we go in life, and this hasn't happened to me yet, but my friends around me growing up and even myself, I feel like we go through that roller coaster where, you know, you're so close to your parents and then everyone has that moment in their life where they just push those boundaries and your parents annoy you, can't do anything right, like you said, are not cool anymore. And then when we become like an adult again, we're like, oh, our parents are like the best thing. And we resemble, I don't know about you, but like, yeah, there's things that I look at now. I'm like, God, I resemble my mum in so many ways. I've picked up so many.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
That's the process of evolution, right? Like, as children establish their own unique selves, they need to push away from their parents. So, I'm trying to coach myself through it preemptively so that I don't take it personally because, they need to move away from parents at that adolescent stage. So who knows? When I get there, all the positive self-talk in the world may not do me any favours.
Well, before we turn this into a parenting podcast, let's go back to you and your writing career.
That's right. It's my time to shine.
It's your time. Leave the kids at school for now, and I'm sure they'll have your attention later on. But yes, love to know about, like, when did this all start for you? I mean, have you always been a writer, or when did that kind of happen in your life?
I've always been a reader.
Yeah.
Always a bookworm. I was a bit of an odd kid. I didn't make friends easily. I was always the quirky, what is she on about one? And books were really a refuge. They were a place where I could turn to. And I always delighted in words. Any opportunity to write, I would really craft everything. And I'm talking about emails, like when I used to work in sales and marketing, like every email to a client or a supplier was, a work of art. It was an opportunity to express myself. I have a friend called Rena Chia, and she and I used to run markets here in Melbourne at the same time about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
The other day she pointed out to me, She said, I loved your newsletters, your market newsletters. You were already a writer. And I have no recollection of what I wrote in those newsletters. But she said, oh, I loved them. They were always so funny and such an interesting sort of authorial voice. So she pointed out that I had been writing even before I knew it. But really, my decision to have a go, because that's what it was, just to have a go, came after the birth of my second child in 2018. So I had 2 children under 3, and I really felt that, you know, that kind of housebound, like your life is a bit on hold. I felt that my life was on hold, and I was daydreaming essentially about a time when the kids were a little bit older, maybe at school, and I come back to myself and prioritize the things that I wanted. And I have a friend who's a doctor of psychology, and I was having this conversation with her like, oh, you know, one day I'll be able to do this and one day I'll be able to do that. And she said, well, what would you do if you had all the time, all the money? What would you do? And I kind of went, well, I don't know. I would write. I would like to study writing. And she said to me, what can you do today in service of that dream? And I thought, well, that's very annoying. Like, why are you putting my life back onto me and making me responsible for it? Like, I was having a lovely pity party and she ruined it by making me accountable for my own life, which is, you know, very rude. But after that conversation, I went seeking writerly podcasts and I found some random American one. I literally don't even know what it was called, but the first episode that I listened to gave me 2 things, 2 pivotal things. One was the notion of perfectionist's block. And that's the notion that you don't want to try in case what you produce is imperfect. And as writers, we cannot produce perfect work in the first instance. I mean, perfection doesn't exist anyway, right? But perfectionist's block prevents you from trying. And I just went, oh, that's me. The second thing that podcast gave me was a wonderful writing craft book called Save the Cat Writes a Novel. And I thought, well, I'm going to read this book, and that is in service of my future dream. And I remember saying to my husband, like, I'm reading this writing craft book. It's about how to write a novel. Not that I'm going to write a novel. I mean, who would say they're going to write a novel? What a ridiculous notion. And then halfway through reading Save the Cat, I said to him, oh, no, now I need to write a novel. I had an idea. And the framework of Save the Cat is so accessible. It really demystified, you know, novel writing for me, it was like this otherworldly, inaccessible, aspirational, mysterious, almost witchcraft. How could you possibly write that long form fiction? And when I read this writing craft book, all of a sudden there was a door into that world for me and I walked through it.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because do you think subconsciously you'd always wanted to, like, because when your friend said to you, like, if you could do anything in the world, like, when you think about it, you said writing. Like, you think subconsciously that has been there all along?
I think so. I think so. And it's one of those things that it's frightening to name your dreams. It's frightening to name the things that you want, that you are so passionate about, because it makes you vulnerable, and it's difficult to be vulnerable. And when you talk about it, it also makes you accountable. And those are 2 very uncomfortable things, vulnerability and accountability. And so it's much easier to just not acknowledge it, even for yourself sometimes. But I did, and all of these things worked, almost conspired to get me into writing. I mean, I did go seeking those things, but the serendipity of it was really extraordinary, because I picked a random podcast, a random episode of that podcast, and the 2 things that it gave me was a diagnosis of perfectionist block and the exact writing craft book that allowed me to feel that it was possible.
It's crazy how life throws those things into the mix. And it, like you said, it opened the door for you, right? To be more in the mind frame of, I can do this. This is what I really want to do. So once you read that book, then what did that look like for you? What step did you take after that?
Yes. So I finished reading the book, but I had an idea seed, and I decided to explore and expand that. And that became my first novel, Returning to Adelaide. But I sort of plotted it out as best I could with no experience and no clue. And because I was caring for 2 children under 3, so Edie, my daughter, she was breastfeeding. And as you know, as a breastfeeding mother, you're constantly on the go. Like I had a toddler baby. And the only time you sit down is when you're nursing.
Yeah.
It's the only time.
Yeah.
And so I started writing in the Google Docs app on my iPhone while I was nursing my daughter, and I wrote most of my draft that way.
Wow. Just on your phone. That's crazy.
I would not recommend it.
I was going to say, that would be like very lengthy. Just like,
yeah. But no, it turns out you can just write a novel with your thumbs. So if anyone out there is
you
like,
need some fancy laptop. iPad, just use your phone. I mean, where did that idea come from? Like through reading the book, or did something happen that, the story came to you?
So it was just the perfect timing. I had this sexy dream.
As we do.
I had this sexy dream about like having an affair with a hotelier at like a luxury European hotel. And I decided that was the middle of a novel. And I had to figure out, so I decided to, you have to raise the stakes and you make it really difficult. And I decided that I would have a protagonist who is very like myself. So married, 2 children. So how to get her to the other side of the world, having this quite steamy encounter, I had to reverse engineer the how, because the other thing that I was mindful of is that in our society, we are hypercritical of women, but mothers in particular. So how to get a mother with 5-year-old twins to the other side of the world, reconnecting with herself and her passions in a way that the readers would accept, that they wouldn't judge her for, that they would see that there was nothing else she could do. She was almost forced into this situation through circumstance. And I managed, I think, to pull it off. That was the challenge for me, was those barriers to getting her there and getting her reconnecting with the woman she once was. So essentially it's sort of the metamorphosis of motherhood, matrescence, all those things that we've experienced. The notion that you can never return to the woman you were before. But if you're very lucky and supported and strong enough, that you can build someone even better. And that's what the story is about.
I love that. Yeah, because you do lose your identity, right? Like anyone who is a parent, like it changes you, and you almost mourn the loss of who you used to be. Like you said, it's so hard to try and get back there. You're never going to get back there because your life has changed so much. It's about how do you now be a new person with the current situation and evolve. And like you said, you can be a better person than you once were. And you're so true, like making sure that you have to be cautious about like what you put in there, because people can judge.
For better or worse, people are really judgmental, particularly of mothers.
Yeah. Before you went out to submission for that, what did that look like with your writing? So you wrote it on your phone, and how long did it take you to write? And did you just fit it in whenever you were nursing? Is that kind of what your routine looked like?
Yes, I set myself a daily word goal. So of course I Googled how many words per day do writers write? Because, what else do? You turn to Google for all of your unanswered questions. And I got a list off the internet and the daily word goal of some well-known writers was between 500 and 2,000 words. So I figured that I would set myself a 400 word goal daily. And I stuck to it. through this process mainly of writing on my phone. On days when I didn't have the kids or I had a few hours to I would write on my laptop, and oh my God, like it felt so good. But I think I've completed the draft in about 4.5 months that way.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And that's just through stubbornness. Like I just wrote 7 days a week, 400 words a day.
Yeah.
It was done.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know any writers. I was not connected to this community whatsoever. And I couldn't have known less. And I did some editing, which really was just me moving commas around because I thought, I was like, oh, yes, I'll get my red pen and semicolon there. So it was not editing at all. But I was like, yes, I'm editing now. And then I printed off some manuscripts and I shared them with friends, none of whom were writers.
Yeah.
And I got some pretty good feedback. All of them were readers. And so I got some pretty encouraging feedback. I made some edits. And then I decided to enter 2 contests. And one of them was the Romance Writers of Australia Valerie Park Award. And the other was the Hawkeye Prize. And so I was a finalist in the Valerie Parv, which looking back, I didn't really appreciate the gravity of that. It was a big deal.
Huge association, yeah.
But that was very encouraging. And then I also longlisted in the Hawkeye Prize. Now, Hawkeye Publishing offer structural assessments, so similar to the state writers' centres. And I was considering like a Writers Victoria structural assessment. But I figured someone at Hawkeye Publishing thinks my work is okay, so I'm going to do a structural assessment with them. Now, the director of Hawkeye Publishing, Carolyn Martinez, she did the structural assessment herself. And part of it was a report and a Zoom.
Okay.
And we met on Zoom. So they're Brisbane-based, I'm Melbourne-based. We met on Zoom. And I was ready for this big laundry list of changes. I was like, I was going to do it, damn it, no matter how hard it was going to be. I was very, this is going to hurt, but I'm doing it and I'm committed. And what I got was a list of very minor changes, nothing really structural, and an offer of a publishing contract.
Wow.
I know. No one saw that coming. It's all me. And so I accepted. I published with Hawkeye, and that book came out in 2022.
Yeah.
And that was my first novel.
What made you decide to put it into contests first and not go straight out to publishers? What made you choose that avenue?
I didn't know anything.
As most of us, we don't.
But I also do think, in hindsight, like when you're putting together a pitch letter to publishers, one of the things that will get you noticed is award credits.
Yeah.
So the idea of submitting your work to a contest is actually not a bad one, and especially if the contest comes with any kind of feedback, because then you can make those changes. Maybe you've got an award credit or 2, and then when you're pitching to publishers, you can say, my name is such and such, my work has been longlisted here, here it is for your consideration. So it's not a bad approach, but for me it was total fluke.
But that's a really interesting way of doing it. And I mean, it's crazy, right? Because I feel that you've obviously got some skill, because to put that into those contests, to get something from that, and then to land a publishing deal. Like, I feel like you're a natural born writer, because it doesn't happen to everybody, does it?
No, thank you. I mean, I'm not producing great literary works. My goal really is entertainment.
Yeah.
I delight in words. I find relationships between people fascinating. A lot of my work is based on my own life and the people I know.
Yeah.
I'm not building worlds like our lovely
bringing joy to people.
Yeah. Plagiarizing my life. It's not that complicated.
Oh, no, don't discredit yourself. Like, you're fabulous and what you're doing is amazing. So you should
Thank
credit
you.
yourself a lot. So what did that then look like? So you got obviously that publishing deal. How did that then change your life in terms of getting your first novel out there? How did that feel for you? And then what did it look like after that?
I think that it really is sort of a baptism of fire. And I think any debut authors or aspiring authors, anyone in the early stages of that process will attest that this is a steep learning curve. I had no experience with the publishing industry, how it worked or anything. And so you're having to learn all of that from scratch. My second novel, Me That You See, was released in 2024, also by Hawkeye Publishing. And my new one that I'm after now is this August. And so I've had a book out every 2 years so far. And I've been steadily learning not only about the publishing industry, but also an author's place in it. So, like, what is my part in the success of this novel? And I was surprised to find that really authors are spearheading the success of their books. It's through their legwork, their grunt work. And I didn't realize that at the very beginning. You know, there's the sort of superstar authors that are household names. They're almost celebrity authors in Australia, and they get a lot of marketing support, which is wonderful. You know, they get the sales, they get the support. But the rest of us, we are all this self-perpetuating machine. Like, we are the ones who are posting on social media. We have newsletters, we do author talks, we do writing workshops. A lot of writers also do mentoring and structural assessments. There's everything that surrounds being an author, and all of it contributes to the success and the longevity of your career. And that's something I didn't know early on. And it's something that I've gotten more and more savvy with as each book has come out. And, you know, even just the fact of showing up to independent bookstores and being that face of what is essentially your brand. You know, I have a background in sales and marketing professionally, and I now understand, like, I'm utilizing those skills as the product. I am the product that I am selling. And I am fortunate in that I really enjoy these things. They feel very authentic to me. So meeting people, teaching workshops, moderating author panels or author events, hosting other authors' book launches, all of that stuff feels incredibly authentic to me, and it feels like a perk of the job rather than a burden or a task. So that's very much in my favor. But that's what I've learned along the way is that, you know, chances are you look at your favorite author and chances are they're like the, you know, the swan. They're just gliding along the surface of that pond, and beneath the surface, their legs are going gangbusters.
Yeah. It's what you don't see, isn't it? Because I feel like, and maybe that's before you first started, like I'm a huge reader, and, you know, when you think about some of those, like you said, celebrity authors that have been around for a number of years, you think they instantly just got there by the click of their fingers, right? And you think, oh, wow, look, they're getting this deal. And, you know, it was so easy for them. But actually, like you said, they've had a very similar journey to most other authors. And there's a lot of challenges and a lot of resilience and persistence that they've had to push through to get to where they are. And that's like years of work in the making. And
it takes many years for an overnight success, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And at times, I think that's the difference. Like, I asked someone this question once. It's like, what do you think is the difference between, you know, why you're successful, how you got that publishing deal? And they said the difference is I just never gave up. And if you really want it and you love writing, you'll still keep writing, but you're still trying to put your work out there. And eventually it just needs to land in the right person's lap. They need to be able to believe in you, to believe in your stories, to believe in your work, give you that opportunity. 100% believe what you just said there around you have to market yourself. You have to be, you know, it's you are the author, and you have to do a lot of the selling as well. And there's so many different aspects to your role. It's not just sitting down writing the book, is it? It's like you said, all the other components that go alongside that as well.
That's right. And that can be difficult to manage. And most of us have paid work as well. You know, this is charity work. You know, we have our paid work as well.
Yeah.
And family and, you know, all of those things. Like,
Yeah.
being able to juggle those things. I'm fortunate in that I enjoy all of the elements.
Yeah.
I know that's not the case for everyone, and that becomes difficult. But, you know, those, like you said, those celebrity authors, like, they have done that legwork and they've reached sort of rarefied heights that most of us will not reach. And I'm certainly not in it for the money. Like, I'm not hoping that this will be my full-time job. I like the balance of it. I like that I don't have to produce a book a year. I don't think everyone can do that. The people who can are really remarkable. Like, I find it just exceptional, the idea machine and the discipline to sit down and write those novels. You know, people like Sally Hepworth and Ali Lowe that deliver these extraordinary works every 12 months. Like, wow. But I always say I'm in it for the friendship.
Yeah.
I continue to write books because I love it. I find it really challenging and a wonderful creative outlet. I'm in it for the friendships. My continuation of continuing, excuse me, to write books, it's my membership into the greatest club I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
I found my tribe. I belong here. Yeah. I don't make sense everywhere. I make sense here.
That's so lovely. And how have you built that tribe? Just through kind of associations, through going to obviously book launches, but also your own book launches and building, I mean, because it's a phenomenal network, right? I mean, everyone's so friendly, collaborative, supportive. And I can see that even just through like your connections, like what you see, you know, we haven't physically met in person, but the connections that you can build through social media now, right? And there's a lot of people that I follow, that I've spoken to, that I've met in your like zone as well. So how did you build that for people out there who may be looking for that network? And support?
So remembering that I knew no one, not even a writer, you know, in my personal life. And really the turning point for me came when I started an Instagram account called Anne Freeman Writes. And I started talking about writing and my journey. I hadn't done anything yet. So I had written, but I hadn't entered any contests. I didn't have a publishing deal yet. And I started talking about I'm writing, which is, again, we were talking about vulnerability. Like it feels very vulnerable. You feel like, well, who am I to talk about writing? I don't have a publishing deal. Yeah. But if you push through that and just talk about the journey, like people will connect with you. And a lot of those people that I connected with early on, I'm still friends with. Our friendships have transcended, you know, from Instagram into real life. And I'm friends with people all over Australia. And we have very real connections. So you have people to call on if you need advice. I love to give advice because it's a sort of pay it forward situation. The people that helped me early on answered questions and you know, gave testimonials. I mean, Rachel Johns, she endorsed my first novel.
Amazing.
I was a no one from nowhere, and I had a glass of wine one night. And I thought, I'm going to DM Rachel Johns. And I did.
Good.
Said, would you be willing to read my manuscript to give an endorsement? And she said, sure, send it over. And so I put together this gift basket.
Oh, I love that.
I printed it on Officeworks and I put, because it was set in the Greek islands, my first novel. And I got all these Greek chocolates and delicacies and I sent it off to Perth from Melbourne, and she endorsed my first novel. And so, you know, I'm now that I'm a bit further ahead than I was, really committed to helping people who are coming up. And it's the sweetest part of it. Like, how wonderful to be of service. Yeah. Someone who you can empathize with because you've been there not that long ago. Yeah. So it all started with Instagram. I know social media gets a really bad rap, but in
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, it can be a lifeline. You find your people, because I wasn't finding them down on the high street.
No, and I don't think you're going to. But I also love that, what you just mentioned there about also stepping out of your comfort zone. And I think you said that vulnerability piece. I just think sometimes we have to push outside of those boundaries to actually get something that we want. And I just think if we don't do it, we're actually hindering ourselves. Like, we're the ones that are stopping ourselves from actually getting something or moving to the next phase. And like you said, Rachel could have just turned around and said no. I mean, what's a no at the end of the day? Okay, not at least
Yeah.
don't ask. But
I
what you
would have
got,
cried into my Chardonnay, but I'd be fine.
she probably didn't imagine. She probably thought she was going to get this manuscript in the post, but she got this like amazing like basket full of all these Greek goodies, and probably thought, "Wow, I'll do this more often if I'm going to get treats like this."
No, it's just wonderful. And I think, and you also said like going to events, because this for me started in the COVID years. So there wasn't a lot of events. So it started online. And then as things began happening again, then we attended author events. And, in between my own books coming out, I moderate and host a lot of author talks as well. So, helping to launch other people's books, which is like, what a privilege, what a gift to be able to sit next to someone on their, one of their most important days and lead that conversation. It's just wonderful.
It's so true, isn't it? It's so true. In terms of your publishing contract with Hawkeye, did you instantly was it a 1-book deal, or did you go straight to a 2-book book?
So they only do single contracts. So they're part of the small press network. So they're tiny but mighty. So some of the conventions that we know about are more those big 5 publishers, so multi deals and what have you. So Hawkeye, it's like, we're assessing each story as it comes.
Yeah. How does that feel for you? Like, every time you submit, your new manuscript, do you have still like that nervousness inside?
I think I prefer it, because then I don't have the pressure of a deadline.
Yes.
When you get a multi-book deal and then it's like, okay, well, we need the book 2 by this date and we need book 3 by this date.
Yeah.
And so it allows me to be more self-motivated and self-motivated. I mean, I'm sure I'd be fine with a deadline. It's probably just in my head that I'd be stressed out.
Yeah.
But life happens, and, as I said, I have paid work as well and other things that I'm managing. So I like the autonomy of being able to decide when I'm writing.
Yeah. And touching on that then, because when you first started crafting your first novel, obviously you were on your phone, and you had a Word like 400 7 days a week. What does it look like now? Because you're obviously juggling multiple things. Like, you've got paid work, you've got family, you're on social media, you've got a full presence now of like, you've got to market yourself, market your books. How does your writing routine, how has that adapted for you?
Yes. So I am a very fastidious and highly organised person. So let me preface by saying that, so that everyone is ready for when I tell you. So I still have daily Word goals, but they vary. So my children are at school. So there's a few days where I have more hours available for writing. And then there's other days where I have other commitments. So I'm working on my 4th novel. I've got the first draft, and how I achieved it was Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I had a daily Word goal of 1,750 words. And then on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, just 250.
Okay.
Because I have paid work, or I have the weekend with my family.
Yeah.
Now, often I do yoga every morning. I do a short online tutorial. And so I would sit on my yoga mat, and usually I would bang out 250 words before I start the yoga tutorial. But the main writing days of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And the reason that I wanted that continuity, for me, it helps to just even write a little bit each day, because it means that I remain immersed in my story world. So rather than saying, okay, I only write on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I have that little bit.
Yeah.
a word count on those other days, and it means that I don't have to find a way back into it on a Monday morning. For me, I get a disconnect if I'm not at least just dipping a toe in.
Yeah, it's very true, because you forget, and then you probably spend time like going back over what you wrote, which
It takes a little, to get sort of almost acclimatized again.
Yeah.
And so that works for me. So having the different word goals, and I keep a spreadsheet and I write down the words that I achieve each day.
Yeah.
Often I will go over, but I am very particular about hitting that word goal. So if I did 2,000 words the day before, I am still hitting that 1,700 word goal today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. In terms of like your stories, because you said you incorporate a lot of yourself and things that have happened to you, where does that inspiration come from? Where do you get these ideas from to kind of craft that next story for your book?
I'm a person who doesn't have a huge amount of ideas. I know that many writers talk about the problem of too many ideas, and they're all vying for attention and they're all shiny and new and they're taking focus away from current projects. I don't have that at all. I have ideas that arrive one at a time, and they're very orderly, and they don't shout, they whisper. And I envy people who have this deluge of ideas. I really do. But I have to have faith that if I am in need of an idea, that I can go and find it. So it's more deliberate that I will go out and find an idea or go looking for an idea. In that way, I have a little seed, and the process is that I have to figure out, is my idea seed strong enough? Is it robust enough for me to pin all the other plot points to it? Doesn't collapse. So you need that singular story, that theme, and all the other things then tie into it. But if that initial idea isn't strong enough, the whole thing will collapse. So that's dead order.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. One last question before we move on to the time after now. If you were to think back around, this whole journey so far, what's been the biggest kind of challenge for you or biggest surprise for you?
I think mindset really important. So I had perfectionist's block. I was worried that I would produce something inferior, so I didn't try. And mindset for me is everything. Because if you don't even have the courage to try, like, you can learn all of the writing craft tools, but if you don't have words to edit, then it's all theoretical.
Yeah.
And so overcoming myself is really the turning point.
Yeah.
Understanding that I just had to give it a go and put these structures in place. So committing to a daily word goal and carving out time for myself, which is not always easy for us to do, particularly as women and mothers. It's not always easy to claim time for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be really strategic about it. You have to be protective of it. So those things are everything to me, because if you can't get past your own blocks, then you're not going to put any words down.
Yeah, it's very, very true, actually. Very true. Okay, so I've read it and I loved it. But do you want to give a quick overview of what The Time After Now is about? And then we can deep dive into some of the characters in the story.
Yes. So The Time After Now is a dual timeline narrative. So it's set in the present day sort of suburbia and 20 years ago in the post-millennium Melbourne underground rave scene. So we first meet our protagonist, Olivia. She is a very talented artist with the world at her feet. She doesn't need a man apart from the occasional hookup. When she meets Drew, who is a talented photographer stifled by family obligations, she falls fast. He is thoughtful and creative with an intellect to match her own. When Olivia suggests they take intimate photos, Drew promises to safeguard them with his life. We rejoin Olivia 20 years later. She's in a loveless marriage to a prominent barrister, mother to 2 children, and she's working in an art and homewares store. She's never really realised her full potential. When Drew dies suddenly on shoot in Iceland, there's nowhere for her grief to go. So she pours it into a secret confession to his Facebook Messenger. The next day, she receives a reply from someone who has their intimate photos and is threatening to expose them. The Time After Now is an own voices depiction of invisible disability based on my 24 years of living with type 1 diabetes.
I love that. And it was such an amazing read. And I really love that you did the dual timelines as well, because it gave us opportunity to get to know Drew, which I think is pivotal in the book.
Yes, I'm very sorry to have killed off Drew. Apologies to anyone out there who needs support, because he really is such a wonderful character.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he had to go.
Oh, I know. Well, yeah, he had to. It's part of the story, right?
And my children are like, "Why did you kill Drew, Mummy? He's so nice."
I know you captured him very, very well. And then, I mean, not giving anything away, but the husband, I think you wrote him very well, because instantly my emotions towards him were not very nice. Yes. So I thought you did that well.
A friend of mine messaged the other day and she said, "Oh, the husband, he reminds me of my friend's husband."
No.
So it's not this like Warner Brothers or Acme villainy.
No.
He's just a dude who is crap.
Yeah.
He's not very nice.
No, he's not very nice. No.
But it's believable. Like it's not so comical or, overdone. We all kind of know someone who's just not that great.
Yeah. And I think when you read it, like you said, you've met someone like that. Like you know someone like that. And that's why it's so believable. And then you get those emotions to be like, you're just not very nice. And like, why is she with you? Why did she marry you?
Yes. But isn't it so satisfying to hate those characters? As a reader, I'm like, "Ooh, I hate them." But you feel really good about hating them.
I know. Every time you wrote about him, I was like, what's he doing now? What's he going to do?
What's old mate up to this chapter?
Yeah. But I mean, you also touched on there about type 1 diabetes, okay, and obviously your journey, and that's incorporated into the book. And it really opened my eyes up to it, because I didn't know in depth, like, the education around it and the lifestyle changes that you had to make. So I think for me, like, understanding more about that medical condition was really eye-opening. And I think you're putting that out there into the world to educate people, which is phenomenal, because I still think it's a medical issue that we don't know much about, right? Like, I think in the book, it was like, you touched on type 1, type 2, and it's like, no, type 1 is like, you're born with it. Like, you don't produce insulin. And even more so around how you said that it's harder when you are diagnosed later on in life, because when you're in, let's say, childhood, there's a program that, they automatically put you on. So what made you want to incorporate that into the story?
The ridiculous truth of it is that I didn't realize I was going to do that.
Okay.
So and I look back and go, how could you not see it? So basically, the idea I had was around the intimate photos resurfacing in middle age. That was my initial idea. So the notion that in the heady days of young love, that you would willingly agree to take intimate photos. In this instance, Olivia instigates it. It's her idea. Yeah. And for those photos to 20 years later end up in the wrong hands, leaving you vulnerable with this threat of exposure. She's now married to a very prominent barrister who's on track to become a magistrate. So there's this sort of public persona, a reputation to be upheld, particularly for her husband and with regards to his work. And what would that be like if something that you consented to 20 years ago that was right for you then is now being exploited by someone with nefarious motives?
Yeah.
That was my initial idea. Now, I needed for this couple, these young soulmates, I needed for them not to be together in the present day. And I needed to figure out, well, why would you break up with your soulmate? Why would you push him away? And I needed to find something, a vehicle for that, something that happens in Olivia's life.
Yeah.
She believes that the only course of action is to push Drew away. And I brainstormed all sorts of things before realizing I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 22. I was with my first great love, now married to. We've been together for 25 years.
Wow.
And at the time of my diagnosis, I was so devastated, so shattered, such a broken person that I believed that breaking up with Paul was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
That I needed to let him go. I needed to set him free because I was broken and damaged and no longer the girl that I once was. She was gone. And I couldn't do it. So this is sort of a sliding doors of Olivia takes that path that I was so sure was right. And it's like this book, nothing else could have happened, but initially I didn't see it. I didn't see that it was that imagining of what might have been in my own relationship. And I must be a bit dense, but I got there in the end.
It's crazy, isn't it? When I think it's, again, it's our subconscious coming through and not realizing until someone points something out or you go, oh, hold on a minute. Okay. Yes. It's got bits of me.
But I think once you've got a finished product, it's so complete. It's hard to imagine that it could have been anything else.
Yeah.
You know, that beautiful wisdom of hindsight.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. So true. And what about the characters? Did they come instantly to you? Like when you start writing, and you mentioned there that it was that idea about the photos that came to you. Do the characters then follow? Is that kind of like what happens when with this book specifically, is that kind of what happened here?
So I usually, with a protagonist, I start with a version of myself.
Yeah.
I start with a version. It's like me, but this.
Yeah.
Me, but if that had happened. Me, if I was that. And from that place of familiarity and authenticity, the character then grows legs and they start running in a particular direction. And all I have to do is like keep up and write and take notes. So that's my process. Like I said, like maybe I don't try that hard. Like most of my protagonists are some version of me in the beginning, and then they really develop into their own people. And the same thing with Drew. Drew started off as a version of like, my husband, like a young kind of version of that. And then he completely became his own person as well. So now, in the first few chapters, it was like, well, this is the story of Anne and Paul. Chapter 3, it's Olivia and Drew. Like it's, they
evolve.
Come into their own.
Yeah, I love that. What's the one thing that you absolutely loved about writing this book?
I really enjoyed the depictions of my invisible disability. I cannot tell you how easy it was to write, enjoyable it was to write, and validating. I really enjoyed it, and I am so pleased that readers have connected with that part of the story.
Yeah.
I was hoping that they would tolerate it. I was hoping that they wouldn't be too annoyed by it, but it's coming up in reviews again and again that this was one of the most enjoyable parts, shining a light on what is unseen. There's some wonderful scenes where you've got the juxtaposition between how Olivia outwardly is dealing with people and the world and her interiority. And people say some silly things to her, as they have to me. And the juxtaposition between how she responds in a very dignified way, very measured, and her interiority going, here we go.
Yeah, I think there's a moment at the dinner table, right, where she's amongst those the husband's friends, and it's like just the comments that are being made.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so much of it, it was, I'm not going to use the word revenge because that has a negative connotation, but it was like every silly thing that has ever been said to me, like I've put it in this novel.
Yeah.
And the deliciousness of that is just, I cannot tell you how pleasurable.
Yeah, good on you. Why not, right? Like, it's your therapy.
Absolutely. But what fun.
Yeah, exactly. What about, like, what would you say has been the biggest challenge writing this book?
I think it's always difficult to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
I think writers universally will understand this, even if it's not grounded in their personal experience, as this is. Like, this is heavily grounded in my experience. But even if it's not, when you write a novel, you're presenting it like this to readers, and you're like, this is exactly what kind of weirdo I am. You're sharing all your innermost thoughts and quirks, and you're going, here it is. Be gentle.
Yeah. Because like you
why
said,
do we do this?
It's that vulnerability piece, because especially when people review it, right? And it's like they're reviewing you as a person, basically.
They are. Yeah. Like, this is my inner weirdo. Please be gentle.
But I mean, the response so far, I mean, it's not even out yet. It's out on August the 26th. The response that I've seen that it's had so far has been phenomenal. So that must just give you so much happiness and confidence that it's going to do well.
It really does. I cannot tell you the relief and the ecstasy that comes with reading a review. And they're all different, and they're all so thoughtful. And different parts have resonated with different readers. And I think that's the beauty of writing for readers, writing to share with someone, is that as writers, we perform half the job. We write the story, but it comes to life in the imagination of a reader.
Mm-hmm.
And to then have it reflected back. So for readers to tell you, well, these are the bits that spoke to me.
Yeah.
What a gift that is. But, there was a weekend, I think 2 weekends ago, I got 2 reviews on Instagram from Bookstagrammers.
Yeah.
And one of them gave me 6 stars out of 5. Wow. And another gave me 11 stars out of 10. And I was high. Like, I was experiencing a high that was like, chemical derived.
Yeah.
And I went to my family and I read both of these reviews out, and I told them about the stars, and my children were aghast. They're like, that's not how maths works, Mummy. 6 stars out of 5 is not fractions.
Back down to earth a bit. Yeah.
I was like, you know what? The maths doesn't math, but I am delighted.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes we don't care about the math. It's about, having the elation of like what's just happened there.
I felt giddy over it, and I know we shouldn't tie our emotions to it. Like, we need to, be more robust, because, if a 1-star review rolls around, it's not a review of us. It's a separate, it's a piece of work. It's independent of us. But oh my God, like, it makes my little heart sing.
Oh, but I don't think we celebrate the good things that happen enough as well. So I think you need to take a moment and pause and be like, I put my heart and soul into this. People are reading it and this is what they're thinking about it, and really focus on the positive. Because I think a lot of the time we go in that negative downpour of, oh, it should be better. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And take a moment to actually breathe and say, I just wrote a book and it's a bloody good book.
And someone loved it.
Yeah.
I think we need to learn to wallow in joy.
Yeah.
We're not always good at that. We move swiftly past the wins, right? Yes. And wallow in the despair. And I think we need to flip that. We need to learn to move swiftly past the things that are difficult, and those moments of joy and validation. Like, we need to really stretch it like taffy.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and you've got more to come, right? Because it's out on the 26th of August. So I know that as soon as it hits those bookstores and people are reading it, you're going to have more 6 out of 5 stars, 11 out of 10 stars.
I hope so. It's just, yeah, it's been really beautiful so far. So I hope it continues.
Yeah, I know. So where can people find you? You're on Instagram, Anne Freeman Writes.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I also have a newsletter that goes out monthly. So I often send out free downloads or subscriber exclusives. And I do lots of events. So if you subscribe to my newsletter, that's where I will talk about where I'm popping up in real life. So for the time after now, I've got quite an extensive book tour. There's a lot of events here in Melbourne and Victoria, but I also have events all up and down the East Coast. So for 3 weeks, I am going from Melbourne to Brisbane and back again and doing author talks and workshops all along the way. But I've already got events sort of right up until November this year. So please subscribe to my newsletter and I might be popping up down the road from you. So come and say hey.
Amazing. Yeah, and I am going to your North Sydney event. So I'm very pleased that it's not far.
Well, I've got 2 Sydney events. So one is North Sydney, McMahon's Point, and the other one's at Harry Hartog Miranda.
Oh, lovely.
So I've got both sides covered.
You've got both sides. Yeah, people can travel. It's kind of catering for everyone in Sydney, which is phenomenal. So yeah, I'm very excited to meet you in person for that as well. But I've had a blast. I mean, we could keep on talking. We're nearly at an hour, right? And you think there's so much.
Yeah, we need to enforce that boundary, Lisa, because it's going to get out of hand.
I know. But I've loved chatting to you, and I think you've got a great story, and just the personality and your persistence, and just everything about you. I think you're going to be hugely successful years to come. So keep doing what you're doing and producing the work that's out there.
I will just play that audio clip to myself every morning. So thank you for that.
Manifest it.